Hello, everyone. I am Andy coming to you from the United Kingdom.
And I'm Scott, coming to you from Canada.
Lovely. Good to see you again. And welcome to the Tea Timbits podcast. Once again, global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. This week, we are continuing our spring cleaning theme, and we're going to be talking about tools. But before we get into that, Scott, do you have a story for us?
I do, and I think it's going to tie in to this theme of the month. So I'm in the corporate recording studio today, not in my home studio. And as I was preparing for that, I was looking at the whiteboard on the opposite side of the wall here, opposite side of the room, and it has a action plan. And I was like, yeah, that was a really good action plan. And then I looked at the top of the thing and I wrote down the month that I created this action plan in, and it was April. So been this action plan on the whiteboard. It's covering half the whiteboard for a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that was a very sensible thing. And yes, I should do all those things. And then I was like, wow, we probably were good at being like strict about that for, I'm going to say 2 months, like probably by the end of May. Like that structure had just kind of evaporated. And so I think I'll just sort of bring up another theme about accountability here, and that it is one thing to do these things we are espousing, to be clean and hygienic and organized, but it is not enough. You have to find the right way to inject a certain amount, the right amount of accountability. And it doesn't mean you have to stick to your plan, because I also think that that's a pitfall, and not being agile and open-minded and whatnot. But I think what I'm referring to that is still staring me in the face on this whiteboard is absolutely a process of structure that would have served me very well to continue having been strict about following that from then until this very day right here, with a bit of deviation, of course. But I want to just sort of reflect on that and the importance of putting the right kind of accountability structures around some of the plans that we make.
And so, are you going to put this up on the whiteboard now that you need to do that?
Yes, absolutely. No, I'm going to make you my accountability partner. It's going to be part of our opening every week.
Oh, very good. We're going to see what we can cross off the whiteboards.
Yeah. Well, this one was more of a planning structure as opposed to a to-do list. So,
okay. Well, I hope it adds some value, even if you rewrite up the same things, but just going through that process once again would be quite good. You are right. In a way, it ties in very well with the theme for the month. And I'm not sure how it ties into today's topic in particular, but today's topic is very much about the tools that we use and how we can use those for organization and how we organize those tools. What was it you had in mind when you suggested this particular version of the topic?
Well, I think originally I was thinking about combating the bloat of tools. And so I think and boy, gosh, this couldn't be more pertinent to a client conversation I was having today. It's so enticing to fall victim to sort of the shiny object syndrome. Oh, like this tool, espouses to address this shortcoming or add this value, and you grab it off the shelf and you turn it on and you use it for a week, a month, a quarter, and then it just kind of drifts away. And then, partway through that time period, you or a colleague grabs another tool, and all of a sudden, not only do you have all these subscriptions, but you've got, this clutter, this digital clutter. It's embedded on your website. It's like all of a sudden, I'm getting overwhelmed even in this moment right now explaining like all of the tools that I know that we experimented with over the past year, because that's part of it. You're curious, you're exploring, you're interested, but and so I'm not going to fault anybody for doing what I do as a regular behavior, which is, you try these tools, you see what works, you see what doesn't. You, in my case, use it to advise your clients and advance certain priorities, but you kind of forget to go back and be like, so hold on a second. Do we still need all the other ones that we've already signed up for. So when I first thought about this theme, in my mind, it was decluttering your digital toolbox. It was going in there and being pretty deliberate about what are we actually using. And just because you found something, it might have had a lot of value at some point. There's a when we all know this, when you're cleaning out your closet or whatnot, you're like, oh yeah, I love these jeans. But if you haven't actually worn them, it doesn't matter. Let somebody else find the value, right? So it's the same thing in this situation. If it's not something you actually have actively, you can subscribe again, you can bring it back, but boy, is it helpful to kind of clean up and clean house, because the situation that I was in today was that kind of housekeeping had not happened. We were looking at this dashboard of data with all these inputs coming from different systems and different sources and different campaigns and different initiatives that have been started sometime over the past 4 years. In this case, we looked at the timestamps, and there were dozens and dozens of different like inputs and data points in this scenario, and nobody knew what half of it was for. So anyway, that's what I thought about. What does it mean to you? What did you think about when this theme came up, Andy?
Yeah, I suppose in a similar vein, because we often have these tools that we think are going to add value to us, or that we feel are useful for a particular something that comes up at some time. And then we have these tools on our desktop. We have these tools that we kind of give some data to, but we don't really engage with that much. And it's more about taking a reflection on that. How many of these tools are actually adding value, and how many of them are actually just consuming time or giving you data and steering your work in a direction that you don't really need to. And I'm definitely guilty of that. I'll see a shiny new tool that does something or promises to do something, and I'll give it a go, because if it does actually do the thing it says it's going to do, then that would be great. Very often they do, but on a very, very surface level, and then they kind of fall apart when you start using them a little bit more intensely. Typically after you've actually paid the subscription fee to sign up to use it. Yeah. I think, dialing back on some of those things, looking at what you're, spending your money on, what you're signed up to, and which tools are actually really adding value to the business and to you personally, is a really good thing to do. I think a lot of us just, continue a bit like a gym subscription, for a gym that
Feels
you don't
good
go to anymore. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that is quite a useful tool. That was good for this. But again, as you said, it's like that old pair of jeans folded up in the wardrobe with the tag still on it that you have never worn, that you go, oh yeah, they're really cool. I'd love to wear them.
Right.
But you don't.
Right.
So for me, it's just about spending that time to go through.
Closet with the tag still on it.
What's that?
I think only you have clothes in the closet with the tag still on it.
Oh, I have lots, yeah, and hanging up over there as well.
I mean, I take the tag off, wear them once or twice, and they go, "That was nice," and then I wear another pair. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about those." Okay, so good. I think common sense. We've all heard this before. Good to remind everybody. What are the tools that you do find useful? Let's put this in perspective from a business development, sales lens. What are some tools that you have come to rely on that you find are indispensable?
Well, for me, obviously, Zoom, video communication tools, things like that, they are indispensable. And it sounds silly to say it, because we all kind of take them for granted now that that's a part of our life, but it is important to make sure that you are using them to their fullest and getting the most from them. And whether it's Zoom or any of the other good platforms, it doesn't really matter, but make sure that you're using all of its capabilities, because, for example, on Zoom, you can record the recordings, you can get an AI summary, you can get an action plan, all of this stuff that you would typically employ someone else to do, to sit in a meeting and take notes and give perspectives and give feedback. Zoom will do that for you. And we're not sponsored by Zoom, but if they want to send some money to my bank account, they're very welcome to.
I wonder how many more licenses they just sold as a result of that message, Andy.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that, just simple things like that, things that are going to save you time for things that you're going to do anyway.
Yeah.
That's really good. There's a lot of transcription services now as well, so try and use some of those. A tool that I like to use as well is the voice note recording on Apple, because that also transcribes now as well. So you can get your notes written out. You've got a recording of it as well. Really valuable. I used to use a tool which I don't use anymore because it's been superseded, but this is one where you would actually sit in a meeting, you would record the meeting, and it would, in a similar way to we just said about Zoom, it would actually then pick out the key points from the meeting, who said what actions were agreed, and so on. And you'd have that, and you could then share that with everybody who was in the meeting, and make sure that everybody's kind of accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. Because the worst thing is, when you have a meeting, physical or video, very often people agree on things and then nothing actually happens because people have forgotten about it. Nobody took notes. Nobody's doing a follow-up email. Nobody's doing any of that. But the great thing is, if you've got a tool that can help you to do that, then you send the follow-up email within 10 minutes of the meeting and you're done, and everybody's got their actions. They've got their responsibilities and you can all move on. And it's been a worthwhile meeting. You'd have to have another 10 meetings to do the same topic. So those just very, very simple tools make a huge difference and are very, very time saving. There are other tools which I would recommend not using, and that is the auto email filters, where they choose which emails are more important than other emails, because as much as they claim to have the skills to be able to do that, they very often don't, and you will often lose or miss certain emails. But if you have emails coming in that are not valuable and are not adding value, then stop subscribing to these things. Spend some time to unsubscribe from all of the mailing lists that are sending you emails that you're not interested in, and stop cluttering up your mailbox. I mean, I spent I think 2 days the other week just waiting for emails to come in and just trying to get rid of all of them, because I was having hundreds of emails every day from something that I'd subscribed to years ago, and I just got in the habit of just deleting the emails, never actually reading them or opening them, but they were still going out. So why am I wasting time doing that? Just unsubscribe from these things, and or block them or automatically send them to the bin. Little things like that, they're time consumers, and they can add value. So
well, Andy, I don't mean to contradict you here, but I
good.
And
do we disagree on something?
by my automated email filters. They are so freaking fantastic. I get copied on a lot of emails.
Yeah.
And I have become a fan of the pin feature in Outlook. So I was like, oh, that's what I need to deal with, pin. And everything else just keeps going below the fold. And then I've got my clutter bit, which is perfect for the things that I subscribe to a lot of things that I might want to deal today, but I might be shopping for jeans today, but fishing lures tomorrow. And it might be another year before one of those things comes around. But anyway, I embrace the power of a well-organized inbox using all those kinds of things. So I find a lot of value in that. I do the occasional purge. For me, it is usually around Christmas time when you get inundated with deals and promotions. Like, oh my God, get me off that list. So I empathize with your perspective on that. When you were mentioning Zoom and transcriptions and whatnot, so I don't join a call anymore without somebody's AI assistant entering the meeting too, and taking notes and whatnot. And it is truly fabulous. I think for a few different reasons. One, yes, good at note taking. Two, good at accountability, follow up, and remembering what we had to do. Three, remembering that it's a professional moment, and what you are saying is being recorded. And I actually think that in business, that can add a bit of value and efficacy to a lot of meetings that otherwise were unnecessary or unstructured or whatnot. So that's good. Now, I will add in the vein of tools that help. a lot of times I come across folks that use Zoom or whatever it is, or AI. So first of all, that's the top of my list, AI. Pay for the service.
Yes.
The
Yeah. Definitely.
the tools that you actually use, and you might just like, what, who says Zoom is it helpful? Like, that's not helpful. Well, the helpful tip here that I want to add is, if you're using the free version, and most people who are using Zoom are paying for it, but if you're using AI, there's a huge difference between the free version and the paid version. If you have a tool that really does bring you value, the paid version is going to unlock so much more value than the free version. You owe it to yourself to at least do the free trial or subscribe for a month or two and see if it ended up giving you back that 10-20 bucks or whatever it was. Couple $100 a year to keep yourself organized, have history, have all the advanced features, I think is very well worth it.
It's a lot cheaper than a PA.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. My favorite tool is my notebook.
Oh, I've so gone back to that as well.
Yeah,
I
am on like the last 20 pages of this thing. You can see how worn it is. But there is something about the process of putting it on paper, and then the only reason this works for me, and if you're just listening, I'm holding it up and waving it like it's a treasure. The only reason it works for me is because I've paired that use with a routine and a process, which in this vein, I also want to mention, like, part of the tool needs to be the process. The actual tool is the cadence, is the structure that you put around it. And one thing that I have adopted on the advice of my business coach is organizing my week, time blocking into, here's what I'm going to do generally on different days of the week. So I'm going to focus on business development, purely business development, outreach and networking on Tuesdays. And I'm going to do client work on Wednesdays. And and it doesn't mean you don't bend that, but you wake up in the morning with the intention, and you set out to, and you do plan your calendar, and you try to put client meetings on Wednesdays and prospecting on Tuesdays. But the one thing that I do without deviation is Monday mornings are my plan the week time. I've got a 1 hour block in my calendar, and I don't change it. And I go back through my notes, and I start kind of a new chapter in there. And I go, okay, what's fallen off? What needs to be a priority? And get myself organized and ready. So I think that process is itself a tool worth mentioning.
Absolutely. See, I've gone back to the pen and paper, the notebook, which is nice because my pens were getting somewhat neglected. I have some nice pens, but I haven't used them for a long time because I have this, which is like my favorite tool, and it's my iPad, and it's the iPad Pro, so I can use the the pen feature. But I lost the pen.
Oh.
And I had a really, really great app where I could, and it had learned my handwriting. So I would handwrite in there, and then it would type it up for me, which was fantastic. So I had all my notes, my handwritten notes from meetings, and then I could record the meet. So that tool I was mentioning earlier, I could be in a meeting, recording the meeting, handwriting my notes, and it would link the notes to the certain thing that was going on in the discussion there. And then it was just absolutely fantastic. But I lost the pencil, and I couldn't be bothered to spend another $200 on buying a new one.
On the new one.
And so I can buy an awful lot of notebooks for that money, and so I just got some notebooks, and just been using pen and paper ever since, which has been somewhat refreshing. But my poor iPad's being neglected now.
That's a pretty good episode there, Andy. What do you think? We covered a lot of ground there.
All right, we have so many more tools to talk about, but that's fine. Okay, no, it's good. But
you want to fit another one in?
Declutter. Get rid of the ones you're not using, and maximize on the ones that you are using. And if you are using tools, use them to their fullest. I think that's the best conclusion there.
And have the right processes around using the tools.
Yeah. If you want to find out more about tools, or these couple of tools who are telling you about their tools, go to teaandtimbits.com. You can listen to some past episodes and any other thing that you want to do on there, like get in touch or tell us that I'm being a bit of an idiot. That's all fine. But please reach out, tell us what's going on, and tell us what you think. We look forward to hearing
Please.
from you. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, Andy.